So I'm Greg Hart. We're at Mangarara Station, which is 600 hectares of sheep and beef rolling hill country near Alsthorpe in central Hawke's Bay. So we started to think a bit differently about 20 years ago, which was the time of our first child being born. And at that time, we're thinking more about the future and the food that we're feeding our child. And so that has led us down a number of tracks and learnings around, initially biological agriculture, holistic management, permaculture, and it's kind of, I guess, best described nowadays as regenerative agriculture, which is all-inclusive. And it's a system which I think is all about outcomes. And so, I don't see it as anything that should be threatening to any conventional farmer, whatever they want to term themselves, because it is about getting measurable outcomes of benefits to the soil, which is the basis of everything. And, that is all about increasing, soil carbon levels, which has massive benefits for the water holding ability of those soils. So you're creating a whole lot more resilience in your farming system, and resilience to drought, which is a real issue in the North Island at the moment. And as well as that, there's benefits to the quality of the plants that are grown in there, and ultimately the human health benefits from that food. But other things that, regenerative agriculture is also focusing on increasing biodiversity, because again, we have a global biodiversity crisis at the moment with species going extinct. And we're at that point, I think, for our species where we've sort of got to this place taking from nature and using it and trying to dominate and control. And the shift to regenerative agriculture I see as a real paradigm shift, where humans actually start to remember that we are part of nature and part of these natural systems and working with nature. And I see that as super exciting, because I think that is the change that needs to happen on the planet at the moment. Although there's no silver bullets in our regenerative agriculture journey, one of the things that we are using on the farm is holistic management, the learnings and observations of Alan Savory from Zimbabwe, and how he observed the big mobs of buffalo on the plains of Africa, and who were constantly on the move because there was predators sort of snapping at their heels, and without human interference, they were on massive, big, long rotations and going through tall pastures and trampling a lot of the feed, eating as they go, and through their dung and urine over the millennia that built up some really deep, rich, healthy soils. And so that's the process that we try to mimic here by mobbing our cattle up, and instead of lions sort of keeping them moving, we hold them with electric fences and shift them daily so that they're eating and getting fresh grass every day, but they're also getting that trampling effect of the grass. And then it's also about longer rotations so that grass can recover before it's grazed again. What farmers are doing is trying to turn sunlight into food, and we do that through the process of photosynthesis and just getting carbon from the atmosphere through healthy plants pumped down into the soil, feeding microbes who in return bring nutrients to the plant. And it's just a beautiful symbiotic relationship. We have to go back to these natural systems, which include animals as part of the nutrient cycle. Data from America showing that holistically grazed cattle are sequestering carbon through the grazing management and getting that carbon in the soil, which more than offsets the methane emissions that they're doing. It really isn't just about whether it's vegetable or meat, it's how it's produced, because both systems can be bad and both systems can be really good. And so it's really connecting back to the land and how food is produced. And, it is a responsibility, because how we produce food, is what's going to be key to getting humanity back on track, for a sustainable future. So I look over our landscape here at Mangarara and just think and remember that New Zealand was the last big landmass on the planet to be habited by humans. And so only 1,000 or so years ago, which is a blink of an eye, this was a natural habitat, abundant in its diversity and, a whole functioning ecosystem. And in this period of time, we've changed the landscape so much, And we're at that point now where I think we're realising that we've taken as much as we can, and so it's time to restore the balance. And of course, it will never look like it looked like 1,000 years ago, because there's 4.5 odd million people in the country now that we've got to feed, and economies to run and what have you. But we need to go back and find that balance between nature and humans and our food requirements. And I believe that can be done through regenerative agriculture. We're at a really interesting time on planet Earth, and it's often said the next 10 years are basically going to be critical for thousands and thousands of years to come. And I really do think that humanity is waking up to the possibilities and potentials. We're part of nature, we have a role to play, and we can be part of the healing. All the family farms around here that I know, all of them want to pass the land on to the next generation in at least as good a condition as what they inherited it on. And the reality is we're probably not. But if we took some of these measurements, and we know that there are management systems and techniques that you can use now to regenerate soils and create some of this biodiversity and clean water outcomes, then hopefully that's something that people would embrace.